Good morning, everybody. This is Walk the Dog with Riot Mort, and it is 6 a.m. on Thursday, which is my last day before my little summer break and before I am off the TFT team for a short time, which feels very weird. It's very weird. I haven't experienced a feeling like this since I left Nintendo. It's not quite the same, especially because when I left Nintendo, it was like the first time I'd had a big life change like that. So now I've experienced this before, so it's sort of like, yeah, I get it. I know what to expect. But also this one's temporary, right? Like, Nintendo was like there's no going back. Whereas this one it's like, it's temporary. It'll only last a couple months, but it's definitely weird. It's definitely weird. I always use this like driving a car analogy where I talk to the team where I'm like, hey, when we got to work hard, you got to put your foot on the gas. And after you ship a set, you take your foot off the gas and, you ease up a bit. And, I've been slowly taking my foot off the gas this week, mostly just trying to, hand stuff off and make sure everyone's ready to go. And today I get out of the car. Not used to getting out of the car. So we'll see. I'm nervous. But is what it is. So, yeah. Meta-wise, the only other update I've seen from the meta so far is it seems like AMP is like mostly not playable right now. So, it seems like that was kind of a swing and a miss. It seems like AMP got hit a little too hard, which, man, I tell you, and this is not new news for anyone watching, but like the margins of balancing this game are insane, right? You throw 4% nerf on a champion, and all of a sudden it's like, nope, not playable. Completely unplayable compared to, it's just like, wow. Or, you give Vayne 3 AD, and now all of a sudden you're seeing Vayne comps everywhere. And again, I know it's not just one change, right? Like, it's all interconnected, right? It's like, well, actually, Vayne benefits from the Zac nerfs and things like, I know that, but the smallest changes can have the biggest impacts, which makes this game so hard to balance. And I gotta say, talking to the team, trying to set them up for success with set 15, and there's one trait in particular in the next set that I think is like the hardest to balance trait we've ever shipped. And I'm just looking at that and I'm sort of going, oh man, even I would really, really struggle, I think, with this trait. So that's going to be a tough one. Yeah. So anyway, cool. Let's answer questions. That's what you guys all came here for. All right. Any insights into the 3 sets a year model? What caused it? What are the pros and cons? Yeah. So okay. So pretty early on, we were shipping sets every couple months or so. I think if you technically go back and look at the dates, it was like 5.5 months. And eventually we got to this plan where it was going to be like every 6 months. And what we were seeing, if you go all the way back to like set 2, maybe even set 1, but I think set 2 was also doing some of this. We were doing drip feed champions. And what I mean by that is, like, if you guys remember, set 1 launched, and then like 2 patches later, we added the Hextech champions. And then a couple patches later, we added Pantheon, right? And then like set 2 launched. And then a couple patches later, we added like the Lunar champions, right? Like, this was just like, we're going to add a couple champions to the set as time goes on. And from an analytical point of view, what we were finding was that adding those champions wasn't really doing anything, right? It didn't make people play the game more. It didn't make people come back. It wasn't a cool moment. It was just sort of like, okay, there's 2 more champions. That's nice, right? It barely had much of an impact compared to like a typical balance patch. And so our insights team I think they get most of the credit here early on, was sort of like, in order to really make an impact to these, performance metrics, you probably have to do something bigger. And so that's where we ended up pitching the idea of mid-sets. And so instead of adding, 2 champs here, 1 champ there, 3 champs there, the idea would be like one big moment where we would add, 10 champions or 12 champions, or in some silly mid-sets cases, I think we added like 21 one time, which was pretty silly. And we decided to try that. And it also worked out because it created another moment where it was like, okay, we can do like a ranked reset and, have that moment. And it worked in the sense that it was a bigger splash, right? It was like, if you look at our graphs of like a typical set launch and then, hey, it's a mid-set, we would always call it like this mid-set spike. But there were a couple pros and cons. Actually, no, it was mostly cons, to be honest. The first is that a mid-set spike is nowhere near as big as a full-set spike. This is not shocking, right? It turns out adding a whole brand new set is way more exciting than adding 10 to 15 champions to a set. This is not something that needs to be overly thought about. In addition, making these mid-sets was tough. Because what would happen is the team would and this was back when we were a small team and we were crunching to get sets out. It was like, you just barely finished that set. Now you have 2.5 months to make a mid-set, And you can see some of the results of this, right? Like set 6, we barely got out the door. Giovanni, as the set lead, kind of really pushed himself to the limit. And then it was like, for the mid-set, it was like, well, you get Striker. You get a trait that gives you AD, you get some reprints, it wasn't very, it was tough to do. So it was really rough for the team, and players weren't that excited by mid-sets, and it meant you were only getting a full set spike every 6 months. And every 6 months is, wasn't great. So we formulated a plan, and this is actually one of Blue Velvet's first projects when he joined. But we formulated a plan where instead of, 2 sets and 2 mid-sets, we would switch to 3 sets with 3 pods. And the idea being it would be better for players because they would get 3 of these exciting new sets. And it would be better for the team because after you finish a set, you don't have this insane spike of a mid-set. You just stop and go work on your next set. And we'd have 3 set pods, and it would be a lot healthier. And overall, I would call it a massive success. The teams are a lot healthier now. No one's killing themselves to get sets out the door. So that's a huge plus. Players are getting 3 sets a year, which is great. If there's a set you don't like, it's gone in 4 months, which is better than it being gone in 6 months. And it's not like a mid-set can truly, even our best mid-set, it can't really make you go from not liking a set to loving a set. It can make you go from not liking a set to being okay, it's better, but it's not going to make you love the set, Now, as far as cons go, I think generally what we've seen is that sets, a new set comes out and you start playing it, and especially for our most engaged players, it takes about 2 to 3 months. 2 to 3 months before you're I did it. I hit my ranked plateau, probably not getting higher. I've seen all the combinations of things I want to see. I'm good, And so, if after 2 to 3 months, beforehand it used to be 2 to 3 months and then you would get a mid-set, which at least would revitalize it for another month and a half. But currently that hasn't really changed. Now, for a lot of our players, this is where events come in. Events do a lot of heavy lifting here. right? So it's like, I'm starting to get maybe a little tired of Cyber City. Ooh, Remix Rumble Revival. Ooh, Pengu's Party. Ooh, Chunk's Treasure, right? Like, those are the things that actually like fill at the back end. But if you're a like ranked only main, not so much. Not so much. You know, I doubt Soju's ever going to stream a set revival or, you know, anything like that. So, but overall, pretty big success. There's no world where we ever go back to mid sets. Oh, and then the other thing I would throw out is that because the TFT team is insane, even with no mid sets, we started doing what I would call, I was codenaming them 0.25 sets. But the little updates like in Cyber City where we got new hacks and the Koboko rework, or in Into the Arcane where we got a bunch of new anomalies. So it's like even just doing a little bit of that is still possible. It's just we go in with the expectation that like we do that to make the game more fun. It's not going to make our player numbers go up. It's not going to make our hours go better. We just do it because it feels like the right thing to do. And so that's kind of cool. So I don't know. I'm really, TLDR here is I'm really happy with the 3 sets a year model. I doubt I'd change it. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, there's still, I mean, is it perfect? Maybe not. But overall, I think it's a massive improvement. I think, if anything, there's some predictability to it. And in the gaming industry, predictability can be a death sentence. So if anything, maybe we need to surprise you guys every now and then. That's just true of the games industry, though. If something gets stale and predictable, people will get bored of it. So whatever we're doing in the future, we need to not make you guys bored. So, yeah, there you go. All right. Should every comp be balanced in an ideally playable set? Okay, now, obviously, if I just read the question like that, and I said no, people will be like, what? But hear me out. What the person was actually asking about in the longer-winded version of their question was, should every permutation of units be playable? And the examples they gave were like 6 Bruiser Zeri or 6 Vanguard Vex. And the answer to this question, amazingly, even in a perfectly balanced set, is no. I do not think that is possible. I think that would be, trying to chase that would be a complete fool's errand. And there's just no way that would work. A big reason this is true is that with any given champion's output, they may synergize, given their traits, with other champions and their outputs to a mathematical degree that trying to make them all equal, the only way to achieve that would be uniformity. And what I mean by that is, you know, if you're playing Zeri, as an example, and Zeri synergizes with attack speed and AD, and she happens to be an Exotech rapid fire, then the trait link she has to rapid fire might make her work really well with, TF or Draven or things like that. And trying to make every version of that equal in value is just not going to work. Especially because then you'd have to compare it to other Zeri comps, right? Like, and then when that comes into play, there's also the question of like champion cost, right? Is if a 6 Bruiser Zeri, which has, certain cost champions, versus a 6 Vanguard Zeri, which has lower cost champions, that's also going to have to be taken into account. Now, there might be a point in the game where one beats the other, and then later one scales over the other, right? But is that truly balanced? Not really. So instead, the way I have phrased it to the team for the ideal, if we get the game perfectly balanced, is Every single non-tank champion has a comp where they are generally very successful as the star of the show, meaning they're itemized and played around. So, for example, if you go through the list of champions in the set and you're like, is there a comp where Morgana is the star? Yeah, sure. Is there a comp where Seraphine is the star? Yep, sure is. Is there a comp where Zyra is the star? Not really, right? So there's some work to do there. Is there a comp where Kindred is the star? Well, yes, but actually no. And like, there's some work to do there. Now, does every permutation of that character have to also be playable? No, that would be insane, right? Like, if you're like, well, 6 Bastion Morgana is really good, but Divinicorp Morgana isn't good, and Bruiser Morgana isn't good. It's like, yeah, we're not going to get everything perfect. That's just impossible. Given the complexity of all the traits and the champions and things like that, there's just no way that's achievable. But I do think that high standard, and the reason I always give this example when I was training our last live designer was, imagine you load up the game, and for whatever reason, your first shop has 5 Kindreds in it. You buy them all. That's a high roll. Then your very next shop has 4 Kindreds in it. That's amazing, right? Well, it should be, but I bet you right now in the current meta, there's some challenger player going, is this even good? Is this even a high roll? That's not very good. You can't have that. You don't want what should be a high roll to instead be nothing. There's a deer. Let's see if I can. Yep, there he is. There's a deer. Hi, deer. All right, I'm going to walk towards it. Yeah. I'm not going to bother you, buddy. Because things that should be a high roll moment should feel like a high roll moment and shouldn't just be like, oh, well, I got the useless champion, right? That dates back all the way to like our set 1 learnings. Ooh, nice prancing. Our set 1 learnings where, sorry, I'm making the deer nervous and I'm trying to just ignore it and not bother it, but I'm very close to it. Hello, deer. I'm not going to bother you. Goodbye, dear. Okay. We don't want all the way back to set 1 learnings where there used to be quote unquote bad champions intentionally, and like that was really weird. So our goal is to simply make sure that every champ has a playable line. That's the goal. But every combination of every champ, it's not going to happen. Oh, and to be clear, I do also think one of those goals is also every trait, right? There needs to at least be a Divinicorp comp somewhere or a Exotech comp somewhere, right? Now, again, not every permutation of Exotech or every permutation of Divinicorp, but there has to be a Divinicorp comp. Like, that's a perfectly balanced meta, as good as we're going to be able to get it. And even that, some people say I'm naive for trying to chase, but I do think that is the goal. So, all right. Would you still try to be a game designer given the current state of the industry? What are some other options? Things like this. This is a tough question right now because the answer is both yes and no. Would I still try to be a game designer? Yes. Would I do it through normal means? Probably not. I think going to college to get a game design degree right now is not the play. I do not think that is the play. I think right now I'm actually pretty nervous that college is just, the return on investment just isn't worth it nowadays. And especially with AI kicking in, that's the thing that kind of scares me a little bit. But instead, what I believe is that, sorry, there's a car coming. The way I would phrase it is, actually, A good example here is actually how my boss, Peter Whalen, got into the industry. I would actually recommend doing what he did. So, which was, so he ended up, and he actually just did a podcast where he was talking about this if you want to watch it. But he he went for, machine learning, I think was his general degree. You can look it up. I'm probably getting this wrong. But he ended up working at Amazon in just like a general tech industry job. And then on the side, he was making games. And he made a game called Dream Quest. It's actually a pretty fun mobile game. And after making that game, people noticed it and then reached out to him and hired him at Blizzard. And like, that is actually the path I would take. I would make games on the side, especially given how many tools there are to do that now. I would get like some real application practice rather than trying to, because the other thing too is it's going to make you a lot more well-rounded if you have to make all the parts of a game. This is something I think people who start at big companies really end up failing in the industry. But like, try to make a game on the side, and that way if it doesn't work out, you still have a stable career. And if it does work out, then awesome, you got into the industry. Plus you got to make games for fun, which is pretty cool. So, yeah. It's a good question too, just because again, the industry right now is so insane. It is a very difficult industry to get into right now. And all you hear about are these companies, like, you hear about all these companies that's like, we started up this company, we started this game, 4 years go by, nothing happens, and we run out of money and we're shutting down, or we shipped nothing, or our eyes got bigger than our stomach, man, is. And then you look at games like, oh God, I'm blanking on the name of it now. Donkey's first Animal Well. Like, that's where I think the secret to getting into the industry right now is like trying to make your own Balatro or Animal Well or something like that. Something small, something good. If I ever retire, I'm probably going to do that myself. Like, and again, no one's saying you need to make a game like as successful as Balatro or Animal Well. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying just like, make a game. Make a small game. That'll get you in the industry, you know. One of our tech designers, Milo, did a lot of Minecraft stuff. That's how he got in. So there's a lot of ways to go about it. A lot in the OG days, a lot of early Leagues designers were Warcraft mods. They would do Warcraft mods, and that's how they'd get hired. So, I don't know. Can't stress it enough. Go make some games. But in order to make a living, you need a job. And so, yeah. All right, we're at 23 minutes. I had one more question. I'll probably have to wait for that one until next week, because I wanted to answer this question because it was the most upvoted question, which was Cat update, Sephiroth update. And I also wanted to not necessarily end on a bit of a downer. But yeah, we took Sephiroth to the vet yesterday. We were all excited because it might mean, hey, Sephiroth finally gets to like come inside and not have to be in our garage and be all lonely. Let's see. No microchip. This is not shocking, but so did not have a previous owner. We don't know where he came from or anything like that. Was underweight. We've been trying to feed him as much as we can without going too ham. But, you know, we'll keep feeding him more because he's underweight. He had worms, which is not a big deal. He got some deworming medicine or whatever. That's not a big deal. But here's the curveball. They think he might have kitty leukemia. That's the way my wife described it. Now, the test they did, there was a blue dot, but it was faint. And the test that they did does have false positives. So we're taking him back today at 2 to do the blood work, which is the more like 100% accurate test. But if he does have it, it's very contagious between cats, which means he can never be inside our house. He can never, like, we can't own him because the other cats could catch it, and I can't just leave him in my garage for the next 2 to 3 years. Because that's the other thing. If he does have it, it will likely kill him in 1 to 3 years. Could be less, which isn't great. My wife was pretty devastated by that. She's like, I thought we were doing something good. It just sucks. He finally found a family that will love him, and he may not be able to enjoy it. So we're waiting. I mean, there's 2 outcomes here, and I'm, again, very logical person here. I'm trying to break it down for my wife. But there's really 2 outcomes here. One is he doesn't have it. Great. No problem. Everything will work out. We'll adopt him. It'll be great. But if he does, there's not really much we can do. It's pretty hard to find somebody that will take in a sick cat. We can't let him back out into the wild because, A, he can spread it to other cats who are outdoors, and B, just don't want to do that. And then, like, if he starts getting sick, he will kind of just be suffering. So as far as I know, there doesn't seem to be better options from what we can tell. If he does have it, the answer would be that we'd have to put him down, which is a really depressing end if this were where this goes, where it's like rescued him, brought him in, kept him around, Leo spending time with him, only for that to be the end. So obviously our fingers are very much crossed for everything for it to not be there. But from what I can tell, it's pretty common. So especially with outdoor stray cats. So, I mean, the good news is we kept Sephiroth separate from the rest of the cats, and we've been washing our hands every time we come in from dealing with Sephiroth. But man, it's pretty heartbreaking considering, every time we go out there in the garage, he's very loud, he's very vocal, he just wants to be loved, and fed. He loves his food. So, it's funny, we had 4 cats, and the loss of a pet is always hard. We took losing Zelda pretty hard last year. I don't think we expected to all of a sudden find a 5th and lose that one first. So that was not something I would say my family was expecting. But yeah, so for now, Sephiroth's back in the garage, getting fed. We're giving him a little extra food. Lunch yesterday was the first time where he didn't actually just like immediately gobble it all down. But we also think he was kind of still stressed from the vet, and that was why. So yeah. Yeah, the mood around the house yesterday was a little somber. But I'll let you guys know when we find out. Like I said, we're taking him back today for the official test. And then this is minor, but I'm just going to call it out. The other thing is, thankfully, I am fortunate enough in life where bills like this don't really affect me too much, because it's like, oh yeah, we found a stray and you take him to the vet and it's $400 plus another $300 test. And it's like, there's a world where that's like, ow, that's a lot of money. But, in the grand scheme of things right now, I am blessed enough that it's not a big deal. So yeah, there you go. There's the Sephiroth update. Yeah. Okay. We're hitting the 30-minute mark. I'm going to end this. Reminder, no walk the dog tomorrow because I will be streaming. I'm going to stream on Friday to make up for the fact I will not be streaming on Saturday because I have a friend visiting. And then I will stream again on Sunday. And then I'm on summer break. and we'll go from there. So I also know the cups are this weekend, the regionals, so we'll see who makes it to Worlds. That'll be fun. Good luck, players. I'm kind of rooting for Robin Songs, I think. I think it'd be cool to see him get his shot. So that's my vote. So okay, well, like I said, sorry to end on such a downer, but you guys asked for it, and so there's the update. So all right, that's gonna do it for me. Until next time, take it easy.